Chris, I need $5 million or you'll never see your kid again.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been taking out the trash lately, so he's your problem now.
All right. Did not expect that one. Okay. Must be a teenager because, teenagers.
Yeah, there you go, right? Yeah, you got him. Give him back when he's about 25.
Exactly. I
We'll
love
talk
that.
again.
Absolutely. All right. My guest today is Chris Voss. We're going to be talking about Never Split the Difference. This is a game changer. If you haven't read it, you need to have it in your library. If you read it, you probably need to read it a few more times. I think total time I've read this book is, I want to say about 10 times.
Nice.
And I do cheat a little bit because I have the audio as well. So I think if you include the audio and the reading, I'm probably somewhere in the 15 or 20 times because there's always one more little thing. I forgot about that. Oh, that reminds me, I got to get better at that. One of the things that I wanted to ask you was when you were, I don't know, because you started off as a beat cop in Kansas.
Well, Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you.
KCMO.
Yeah. Good old, yeah. And so what were you thinking? I mean, here you are, you're starting your career off, and is FBI or negotiator or anything like that even close to being in the front of your thoughts there?
Not even remotely. Like I wanted to be a cop who was a good cop.
Right.
Made a difference. Creative, innovative. I didn't realize it now. Then, a maverick attitude, entrepreneur.
Oh, okay.
Entrepreneurs are in bureaucracies are often the most valuable and the least liked by upper management. Because you never a great maverick, you never know what they're going to do, but they're going to hit the target.
Right.
And I saw a movie, The Super Cops, two New York City cops, wildly creative. Looking back on it now, very unpopular with management because these guys were out doing wild stuff, getting a job done. Community loved them, having a great time, and that's kind of what I wanted to be. And if you're hitting the target, I would describe myself as a loose cannon that always hit the target. Well, then some of your bosses are just going to relax and be good with that no matter what. Way on down the line in New York, I left New York because I had a boss that didn't care that you hit the target. He wanted to know about the shot being fired first. And so that's cool. There can be people in charge like that.
Right.
The two of you just don't match up. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and I want to talk about that a little bit more because in the book you talk about, and I think this is one of the many ahas I got from the book. It's not the person across from you that's the problem; it's the situation.
Situation, yeah, adversary's a situation.
But I've come across some people that are
yeah, right.
that add to the problem. They add this to the situation, right? They're just
That's
like,
true.
yeah. So, all right, let me ask you this: when you look back at your career, is there a moment that still lives with you, like emotionally? Not just a mental memory, but like when you look back at a case, is there one that like sticks out that really just, I don't know, stays with you emotionally?
Oh, there are plenty like that. Yeah. I mean, if you're in hostage negotiation, as a general rule, hostage negotiators are successful 93-ish% of the time.
Oh, okay.
Which is a really high success rate. But
It's
then
very
by
high.
definition, that means stuff's going to go bad.
Right.
If you do it enough, and stuff goes bad. And then when it goes bad in a big way, and then you either learn from it, you win or you learn.
Right.
If you don't learn, then you go do something else. And the first difficult learning moment, a Burnham case, 2 out of 3 Americans were killed in that. Now, a bunch of Filipinos were killed too. Right. And, Americans come into another country, we're all bent out of shape over the American lives at risk and tend to make the locals look like we don't care about their people. A bunch of Filipinos get killed. But Guillermo Sabero was executed by the terrorists about 3 weeks in before we had the opportunity to try to stabilize the situation. And then at about 13 months in, Martin Burnham was killed by friendly fire in a botched rescue attempt. Gracia Burnham was wounded. she lived. And about a month earlier, I was sure we were going to get him out. And bad guys reneged on the deal. And I still remember the moment when I got called about 5 o'clock in the morning. A hostage negotiator in the Philippines called and said, Martin Burnham is dead. You know, it was hard for me until I realized I got nothing on what the family went through.
Right.
And that wasn't my father, wasn't my spouse, wasn't my brother. So, and I had to put in perspective after that. But yeah, that was a low point. And then there was a series of kidnappings in Iraq. Al-Qaeda was killing everybody they got their hands on.
Mm.
And those were ugly. So, but you got to learn. I mean, you got to get better. You learn to get out. And I always wanted to learn. I didn't want the death of any hostage to have not contributed to saving another hostage's life. And each and every time, the Burnham case in particular, Martin Burnham's death, the amount that we learned and made ourselves learn as a result to keep anything like that from ever happening again, a bunch of lives got saved.
Right. It's interesting. Another aha that I got from the book, and I've gotten it over and over again, is this thing, you call it tactical empathy.
Right.
And the more I study empathy, the more I see how important it is. And for those who follow Christianity or the Bible, you know, Jesus Christ, you know, had this massive, he's known for this massive amount of empathy. And then, after reading the book multiple times, as I go through different things and I see different, whether it's a simple contract negotiation or whatever it is, I see where empathy, you know, the use of empathy becomes paramount. And really, it's the old saying: if somebody likes you, they're more apt to trust you, and you can get things done. But empathy really seems to smooth over or grease the wheel, so to speak. Empathy is this kind of a magic character.
It really is kind of a mystical thing. And I wouldn't just confine it to Christianity. I think all, three major religions, all, Abrahamic, if you will.
Yeah.
Jewish, Islam, Christianity. There's tremendous amount of empathy in all three. Different takes on it, which in my view makes them all very complementary.
Sure. But
there is something magical about feeling understood. There's something about both feeling understood and intense curiosity. We're getting ready. We're having our annual summit in Dallas, March 2nd and 3rd, which we're about 10 days away from right now. And the night before, we're giving away, for the first time ever, Global Negotiator Awards.
Oh, nice.
For people who've done just amazing things. Almost all in business. But one of the guys we're giving a Lifetime Achievement Award is Darryl Davis. Now, Darryl Davis, a black musician, keyboard player, played with Chuck Berry, has a collection of Ku Klux Klan robes from Imperial Wizards and Grand Dragons that have given him their robes because their friendship with him has gotten them out of the Klan.
That's incredible.
And what Darryl has is this intense curiosity. Curiosity is an irresistible force, which then leads to empathy because, like, I'm trying to understand you. And
right.
Darryl's approach is like, how can you hate me when we've never met?
Right.
And he approaches it not as an accusation, just with deep curiosity. And I've interviewed Darryl a couple times, haven't met him in person yet. Looking forward to seeing him in person. He's been on Rogan talking about it.
Okay.
I came back around to recontacting him recently because Bono's on Rogan, and Bono's talking about him.
Wow.
And so then, I talked to Darryl a couple years ago. Let me talk to him again. Let's get him back. Did an interview for our platform within our Black Swan negotiation community, which anybody can have access to. And it's deep curiosity. And curiosity is an irresistible force. I can sit down with anybody, and if I'm just deeply curious, deeply interested in you, Like, you can tell me everything.
Right. I love that. Yeah. Well, and it goes back to when you sincerely care about somebody, or let me rephrase it, you become a great conversationalist when you're getting people to talk about themselves, right?
Yeah.
And you have that curiosity, and they go, "Oh man,
Curiosity.
that Chris or that Bert, that guy is such a wonderful person," and all they do is talk about themselves.
Robert Greene's book, Laws of Seduction, I think it is. Read Greene's stuff. It's good
Yes.
stuff. And he talks about the charmer. And there's a quote in there that I love. And I'm paraphrasing, but this lady says, I met this guy at a cocktail party, and I thought he was the most interesting guy I'd ever met. And then I met another guy at a cocktail party, and I thought I was the most interesting person he ever met. Second dude's a charmer.
I love that. Not to get political, but what are your thoughts with all the changes at the FBI?
Unfortunately, nature regenerates itself through a forest fire. And a lot of what's going on right now is a forest fire. And it's tragic. And there are casualties along the way. But the bureaus of government bureaucracy, and bureaucracies, instead of holding people accountable, want to add rules.
Right.
Now, I remember the workers, the investigators, the guys that made cases, talking about that there was too much bureaucracy when I joined in the 1980s.
Wow.
And it didn't lessen over the years. And the rules just kept piling on and piling on. And government people love to point fingers, government bureaucrats love to point fingers without holding anybody accountable.
Sure.
So this happened. Well, it wasn't actually anybody's fault. What we need are more rules. And it's suffocating. Now, I don't know enough about Kash Patel to know whether or not he has the ability to lead a law enforcement agency. But if he comes in with a mandate to start burning out the brush and getting rid of the bureaucratic rules, I am all for that. And anybody who wants to make cases is for that. I remember my last assignment when I was really in charge of all our international kidnapping negotiations. Like, I ignored bureaucratic nonsense. And this guy I worked for, he was number 2 in charge of the unit for a while, and then he was in charge. It used to drive him crazy. Because we'd have these inboxes. We get everything in an inbox in paper. And you're supposed to read and initial to show that you read it. And I never read any of that stuff. And my inbox was overflowing. and he used to bring that whole stack of papers to me and put it on my desk. And as soon as he left, I'd shred half of it or I'd put it back. And I never got in trouble for ignoring all that nonsense.
Right.
Now, not everybody was willing to do that. I was focused on my mission, period. And every now and then, the bureaucrats would get a little upset with me for not proving that I read the latest administrative bullshit. But my bosses, by and large, as long as I was out executing my mission, number one, the mission to protect and defend Americans was number one with everything that I did. Then they gave me a lot of latitude.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, you can follow all the rules, but if you have poor results, that's not going to help your case.
Well, who's the management guru from the 1970s? I think of his name.
Drucker?
Drucker said, the worst thing you can do is optimize the unnecessary.
Yes.
Which is kind of what Elon Musk has lived by, which is why he got more rockets in space than anybody else does.
Right.
Getting rid of the unnecessary. But most bureaucracies, it's easy to optimize the unnecessary because you're not going to get criticized for it. But you got nothing done.
Right.
And bureaucracies over the years continue to optimize the unnecessary or sticking your neck out. I mean, I'm on a little bit of a ramble right now, but it has to do with a lot the way I'm running my company and the way you should approach negotiations. I recently was reading a book about Pixar, Creativity, Inc.
Okay.
And the guy who wrote the book, the CEO, after all the years, one of the things he said is, it's cheaper to fix problems than to prevent them. Now, that's scary.
Right.
Your bureaucracies want to do nothing but prevent problems. But it's cheaper to fix them than prevent them, which by definition means you're going to encounter problems, and finger pointing scares the hell out of people, and it flips them into preventing instead of fixing.
Yes.
And again, Elon Musk's a great example because blowing up rockets all over the place.
Yeah.
And thank God SpaceX is not a publicly traded company in the past, because then, the shareholders would be up in arms, and the Wall Street hecklers, the finance hecklers would do everything they can, which the hecklers are after him anyway.
Right.
But they'd scare people into trying to hold them accountable. But blowing up rocket after rocket. Now, nobody ever got killed. And if you take a close look at the entrepreneurs who've tried to get into space, some of them got people killed.
Yes, they did.
Elon hasn't got anybody killed. But that approach to blowing up rockets, he's reusing rockets. They're coming in, they're landing on their bases.
Just like perfect
landings.
Yep.
And then last year, the greatest example of it was a Boeing strands astronauts in a space station because they're a bureaucracy preventing problems.
Right.
And they're so scared that their rocket, that Elon's got to go up and rescue them. So it's scary to take the approach, it's cheaper to fix problems than to prevent them, but you advance your business, your negotiation, your mankind with that attitude.
Right. Elon, I think, is a great example of not being afraid to take risks, no matter how big they are. Because, again, I think it was 3 or 4 rockets blew up, and I think it was the 4th one that landed the way it was supposed to or functioned the way it's supposed to, and that's when he got that multi-billion-dollar contract from NASA. And then one of my favorite stories about him, talk about having that deep internal mission, is that here he was 2.5 years behind schedule delivering Teslas. And people are suing him. You mean all the hecklers and the everybody's coming after him. He's going through a divorce. He's working 80 hours a week. He's sleeping at the shop. And he says, I'm not giving up. They're going to be delivered. And eventually they were. And of course, things turned around. His stock goes from a $2 or $3 stock to a 20 to a 30 to, eventually hits $2,000. And that is such a huge difference because, again, in a bureaucracy, you're trying to avoid the finger pointing. Right. Nobody wants to take the risk because if they take risks, they get slammed.
Yeah. All that, the rocket blew up.
Yeah, it's your fault.
And they even got funny, what they call it, a rapid unscheduled disassembly.
That's right.
It's funny stuff.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Never split the difference.
Never split the difference.
What about this title that you said, okay, yeah, this is the title I want for the book because it encapsulates what? What were you thinking when you chose that title?
Well, it was Tal Ross. Tal Ross, a genius business book writer. I was lucky to get him. Like, there ain't nobody can write a business book like Tal Ross. And I found out the hard way because I've been supportive of other books and just see the difference. So, had a completely different title when we, did the book proposal. Another guy worked on a book proposal. I think, I can't remember what we call it, like dangerous negotiations, something like that.
Right.
I don't remember what it was. And so then the publisher wants us to work with somebody else other than who wrote the proposal. And I'm like, well, we got a shot at Tal Ross. He's the best out there. So I start working with Tal, and he says, okay, this ain't the title. The title for this book will occur to me while we're writing it.
Okay.
When I get deep into your thinking, you and your son Brandon, and I do my research like Tal reads, like the Library of Alexandria. He'd go in there and read that baby. Read every book out there. In-depth researcher, which is one of the differences between him and most ghostwriters. Most ghostwriters ain't going to read anything.
Yeah, they're not going to research.
Tal knocks himself out. And he says, at some point in time, the title of the book is going to occur to me. And so we're probably about halfway through the process, and he says, it's never split the difference. That's what you guys are about. And I'm like, yeah, boom, bang, that's it. And so it was Tall's contribution from an in-depth, insightful understanding of the way we approach negotiation.
Man, that is way cool. I love the fact that he says, it'll come to me later, but this ain't it.
Yeah.
That's from years of experience. He knew immediately that this is not the title.
Yeah, yeah. And he's an artist. I mean, he's an artist, he's a technician, he's everything. And that's why the book sells well. My team just put out a book called Fight Less, Win More.
Okay.
Which I supported the process. I wrote the foreword to. Derek Gaunt, Jonathan Smith on my team pulled the book together. And it's designed to be a supplement for Never Split the Difference. So if you got Never Split the Difference, you buy Fight Less, Win More, and you toggle back and forth between the two. A friend of mine, John Richardson, who teaches negotiation at Harvard and MIT, he and I taught a negotiation course together at Harvard a long time ago. John says, yeah, Fight Less, Win More is a great read. It's a little more dense, and it's not as easy to read as Never Split the Difference. And I'm like, yeah, it's Tall Ross. Tall writes a readable book.
Yes.
And it takes somebody who's as good as Tall, as much of an artist, to make it it's a fun read.
It is a fun read. It's entertaining. I mean, there are so many aspects of this book that there's the human element of the book itself, the hostage stories that you tell. That in itself could be little movies because, is it Jose and Julie out in the jungle of Ecuador? That's to me just awesome story there. And then you mentioned the Burnham case, and it just there's so many things that you go like, wow. And you're reading the story, I'm going, okay, I want to see how he's going to convert this to something I can use in my life. And then it happens. And that's what makes it, to me, even more fun.
He did a great job. Like the Burnham case, it was one of the not the longest, but it was one of the longer cases. It was 13 months.
Right.
And I got into describing the whole thing to Tall, and I'm like, how's he going to boil this down? And he does.
Yeah.
He does. He just boils it down brilliantly.
It's wonderful because the book, at first, Never Split the Difference comes across as, it's a business book or a negotiation book, and it says right there in the subtitle, negotiate as if your life depended on it. Yeah. So you immediately go, okay, this is a negotiation/business book. But really, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's really about understanding how humans function and think.
Yeah, it's absolutely what it is. And so many people have used it in so many different ways. I think that's why it continues to sell.
Yeah. I have to say this, and I can say this because my wife is not going to watch this, but...
Don't tell my wife I said this. All right, that's going to get back to her.
But there's always been this thing out there about guys don't understand women. And I think for the most part, that's probably true. This book will help you just with and we're going to get into a little bit more, but sounds like, seems like, looks like, to me, that was, it improved my marriage substantially. When my wife talks, instead of me saying what I would normally say, I would, honey, it sounds like, it seems like, and it's a game changer.
Yeah, well, and that's a testament to you in the belief of the value of the relationship.
Oh, thank you. I'll save that clip and show it to my wife. Look what Chris says. All right. And this is something, again, that it was a big aha for me, is you challenge the idea of compromise. And I want you to talk about this because the book example is awesome, but you really hate compromise when it comes to a negotiation.
When it comes to anything.
Okay.
Compromise is by definition lose-lose.
Okay.
If compromise was good, we would admire politicians. We'd say, thank God for politicians. Aren't they
compromised
wonderful?
Again.
Yeah. They've all made our lives so much better.
Right.
Oh, thank you, Jesus, for politicians. No. You know, and back in last century, like 70s or 60s, when everybody's reading newspapers and they had these cartoons that were one-panel cartoons.
Yes.
And there was one I remember called The Lockhorns, which was about a husband and a wife. And the husband says to his wife, why don't we compromise? That way we'll both be unhappy. So you compromise your principles, compromise your integrity, compromise the strength of the apparatus that's holding the wheels on your car. It's going to go bad.
Yeah.
Now, why is it? Now, the spirit of collaborating is important.
Yes.
And there are 3 C words. There's collaboration, cooperation, and compromise. And you should be collaborative. Now, if you're cooperative, it means you're a little bit passive and you're going to give in. Collaborative is you're going to hold still to your values. You want to work with people, and you got to find the fit. But then the emotional aspect of compromise, and there's no way around this because we're human. And Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize in 2002, behavioral economics, prospect theory, which boiled down to a loss stings twice as much as an equivalent gain.
A loss?
A loss stings twice as much as an equivalent gain. A loss of $5 feels like a loss of 10.
Yes.
Now, I actually remember listening to Professor Kahneman talking about this, and he said, you know, actually Amos and I thought it was more like 5 times as worse, but we put it down to twice as worse because we wanted fewer arguments from people. So, and athletes, Super Bowl losers.
Yes.
You know, the sports commentators say, losing a Super Bowl feels worse than winning it. And they'll go like, yeah. So what does this mean? Loss is outsized. So if we compromise, we meet in the middle.
Okay.
Let's say we're doing it genuinely, not even manipulatively. Most of it is manipulation. But so, all right, so there's a difference of 10 between the two of us. I'm going to give in 5, try to make the deal. The problem, because I'm human and I'm emotional, I'm going to feel like I gave 10, which then your concession feels unfair to me, which then is going to leave a negative residue in my enthusiasm for the implementation of our deal. Or maybe I'll stick to the deal strictly as prescribed, which means there are always unanticipated problems. And due to my resentment over feeling a loss, then I'm going to keep my mouth shut when unanticipated problems come up. I can see the train coming at you, but our deal doesn't address the train. So I haven't violated anything in our deal by letting this train run you down. I've stuck to the deal.
Right.
And so compromise creates resentment. It's lose-lose no matter what. And if you define negotiation as I do, and in my sense from your discussion with your relationship with your wife as you do, which is a long-term relationship of trust.
Yes.
I want to have a long-term prosperous relationship. And resentment does not create a long-term prosperous relationship. So compromise is a recipe for resentment, which means we're going to like each other continually less as time goes on.
Yeah, and I can see that because you're right. They don't articulate that bitterness. It just builds and builds and builds. And then
when I let you get caught off guard because I resent you, then you're like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
You know, why did you let that happen?
I thought we were friends.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a downward spiral.
Yeah. So when you're negotiating with somebody who has equivalent skills as you do, has the same amount of experience, does that make it go easier, harder, or no difference?
Easier. Because the longer you negotiate, the more you realize, as we were saying earlier, the adversary is a situation.
Right.
Goldman Sachs executive, long time. A statement was attributed to him. Gus Levy, I think the guy's name was. Greedy, yes, but long-term greedy.
Say that again.
Greedy, but long-term greedy.
Greedy, but long-term greedy.
Which means the more we collaborate, the more money I make.
Gotcha.
So it's hard to make the step from being a cutthroat to a collaborative. I don't know what it is in people who manage to make the steps. One of the guys that we've been coaching for a long time, he's actually going to be one of the recipients of the Global Negotiator Award. His name is Ray. He said to me several years ago, I made more money being collaborative than I ever made being cutthroat, and I was good at being cutthroat.
Yeah.
So you begin to realize that there's always a better deal if we collaborate. I'm going to make more money if I can get my ego out of the way. If I get out of the way of needing to beat you,
right,
I'm going to make more money.
And I think that the media has a little bit to do with that, because when you look at these movies, it's always the guy who crushes the other guy in the negotiation and saves the company or whatever, and the take no prisoner kind of attitude.
Right.
And I think that part of negotiation has that propaganda built into it.
Yep.
The other side, I've been in negotiations with an insurance company, and I remember that the way the lady set it up, she goes, there are no the best settlements are when we both walk away slightly unhappy.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, we're just, setting up for I guess to lose, right? I mean, it's versus collaborating, and that's one of the things that in the book, you don't call them adversaries or opponents. You call them counterparts.
Counterparts.
Because a counterpart you want to collaborate with.
Yeah, you're going to do better. You're going to make more money. And so there's good and bad to this whole residue around negotiation, that it's cutthroat, that it's win-lose. The more people that do that, and there's going to be a segment that never go away, ever. Two things are true. There's going to be, those people are never going to go away. And no matter who you are, you're dealing with somebody who's read my book.
Okay.
Because the book sold 3 million copies domestically and over 5 million globally. You're dealing with somebody who's read my stuff. There is no way around it.
Right.
Now, fortunately, this means they're going to want to make deals with you. So you can be relatively unguarded, and it's going to be a better deal, and you're not even going to know it. Now, if you had the skills to add in, you get 2x better deal. And you're going to earn the other side's trust faster, and you're going to get to the best outcome possible quicker. But the cutthroat thing means also, you gave the insurance company example. Insurance company people are emotionally vulnerable to someone who wants to use tactical empathy. Like, they don't get it from anybody. Everybody that talks to them hates them.
Right.
Everybody that talks to them is trying to exploit them, trying to lie to them, trying to bamboozle them, calling them names, this whole negative attacking approach. And what you really want with the skills, when you got a cutthroat adversary on the other side, procurement is very much like this in a business world. What you want them to do is make their bonus on somebody else.
Right.
Because you were the only human they dealt with. And they're willing to make the great deal with you because, in point of fact, they're human beings on the other side too. 95% of them want to collaborate. They got put in a position where they get a lot of pressure to minimize what the other side gets. And, that doesn't make them feel great.
Right.
The vast majority of people don't want to make a living off of other people's misery. But they got their future on the line. They got their bonuses on the line. They got a boss breathing down their neck. So let you be the person they don't make their bonus on. They're happy to do it if they feel this two-way street of collaboration.
I'm reminded of the fact that you look at the personal injury industry. It's lawyers who, because of the way they were trained, have no idea of of tactical empathy.
Right.
They're dealing with, as you said, these insurance adjusters who have their stuff, their agendas as well. And in a lot of cases, in some of these big law firms that you see advertising on TV, there's a paralegal in between that. Mm-hmm. And that paralegal has marching orders, and they have very little wiggle room. And so just listening to you, talking about what the adjuster is going through, they're getting these cold letters from the personal injury attorney side saying, you owe our client all this money, give us this money, it's what they deserve, blah, blah, blah.
Being attacked.
Yeah, they're being attacked all the time.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. So, yeah, I love that. The fact that you come in there with some empathy and they go, wow, this person is treating me like a human being. Because that's going to stand out. Because you know that 99% of the people don't do that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, ask themselves, what are they saying to themselves when they pick up the phone? Typically what they're saying to themselves is, nobody in my company appreciates what I'm going through.
Right.
So when they say hello, sometimes I'll say, you've got to be the least appreciated person in your organization. You got everybody calls, gives you a hard time, calls you names. You're taking heat on behalf of the organization for problems that you didn't create. Everybody's blaming you. And you can just instantly, they're like, wow.
This person gets me.
Yeah. Now they're gonna do what they can for you. There's a saying I like is, never be mean to somebody who could hurt you by doing nothing.
Yes.
So the flip side of that is, what could they do for you if they felt like it? Usually a lot.
Yes. I love that. Yes, I love that. One of my favorite things that I've learned from the book is how am I supposed to do that?
Yeah. And
this works so well.
Yep.
It is incredible. That was the first thing that I put into our organization when somebody started asking for discounts or this or that. How are we supposed to do that? How are we supposed to do that when everybody else pays this amount? How are we supposed to do that and be fair to the rest of our customers? And so it just became the go-to phrase. That was the first thing that we rolled out. Nice. It is just a killer. And I want you to tell the story about this, because it's a great story in the book where the drug dealer gets his girlfriend kidnapped by another drug dealer, and it was really by chance that this one of your coworkers said, "Hey, you got to listen to this. It's kind of funny."
Yeah.
And it gave you that aha moment about how.
Yeah, one of my greatest lessons I was taught to me by a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And they say when the student is ready, the master appears.
Right. Yes.
So the Burnham case. Suddenly, in the middle of the case, we find out that Martin Burnham's been overheard on a phone. Like, it blew my mind. Like, first of all, who's he talking to?
Right.
Because he ain't out in the jungle ordering Uber Eats.
Right.
He ain't calling for pickup.
Yeah.
And so, I asked my boss, it was a lot I didn't know at the time. He says, the only time somebody gets a hostage on the phone is for proof of life. And I'm like, we never get anybody on the phone. We don't even try to get them on the phone.
Right.
Like, who the hell got them on the phone? And who's trying to get proof of life on my hostages? That's one of the things in that case. It was just a train wreck, 9 different ways from Sunday while that thing was going down. We had competing buyers, corrupt politicians, like chaos beyond chaos. And so that really stuck in my craw. Like, I'm supposed to be one of the greatest negotiators in the world. I ain't never got a hostage on the phone. Like, what the hell? And so then it's bad on bad kidnapping in Pittsburgh, drug dealer on drug dealer grabs another drug dealer's girlfriend. Like, when people are backed into a corner in the United States, they go to the FBI for help.
What else are you going to do?
Drug dealer comes in, my girlfriend's been kidnapped. And so the negotiators are riding around a car with this guy. And on his own, the drug dealer, because they got no proof of life, and he just says, hey, dog, how do I know she's alive? and there's a long hesitation on the other end of the phone, and a drug dealer comes on with a completely different tone of voice. The upper hand has just been shifted from one side to the other. The kidnapper no longer has the upper hand. He doesn't know it. And he goes, well, I'll put her on the phone. And that was when I'm like, that's it. What's the reasonable question that's inescapable?
Right.
And how can it be asked deferentially? How and what questions are there? There's great power in deference. And you ask somebody how, people love to tell you how to do something or what to do. So it feels deferential, and everything is shifted in that moment. And that was when, like, that is what we've been missing. We shifted our proof of life and instantly had massive changes in our outcomes in our cases. Because of old proof of life was a bank security question. You know, what was your first grade teacher's name? But how am I supposed to know? How do I know they're alive? The how question. How am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to pay if I don't know they're alive? And the kidnapper's got to go like, that's actually a legitimate question.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And like you said, it shifts that we call it the leverage goes from this side to this side.
Secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation is giving the other side the illusion of control.
The illusion of control. Is that the DJ, the DJ, FM DJ voice I just heard
That was
there?
a little late night FM.
We'll talk
DJ.
more about that, but tonality is important.
Derek Gaunt, we've been struggling with saying it right, and co-author of Fight Less, Win More, head of my coaching and training in my company. Derek finally said the tone sets the tone.
Ooh, that's an easy one to remember.
Yeah.
The tone sets the tone.
And of our list of skills, we've struggled back and forth with whether or not we're going to call tonality the 9th skill, and it is.
Yeah.
And with a great tone, I could get away with almost anything.
Right. When people think about what they do in walking through their everyday life, right?
Right.
I think the book does a great job of bringing this up and saying you're already doing some of these things, but you're just not aware of them.
Right.
And tonality is one of them, because whether it's your wife or your spouse or your mom uses a certain tone, you know that she either loves you or she's about to yell at you.
Yeah.
Right? That tonality is important, and we do it with our children. And you just said, you know, when you're going to ask a how question, you do it with the differential tone, you know, and so it's important. This tonality thing is probably just as important as the questions you ask.
And if you're going to make a mistake, you can make a mistake on a question, but if you got a great tone, you can get away with it.
Yes. I had a client years ago, and she had the most adorable Southern accent, and she knew about it. And
she probably smiled and laughed all the time too.
All
right?
the time.
Yeah.
And when she wasn't getting her way, or when she saw the end, she would, you know, she would, in a kind, fun tone, she would say, "Don't make me use my accent." And people would laugh and chuckle, and she would get her way.
Yeah, and you know, women have some advantages in negotiation. And on Shark Tank, Lori Grenier's got this great tone.
Mm-hmm.
And there are no shortage of times when she tells the other male sharks basically shut the fuck up.
Right.
But I heard her say one time, she said, "Just sit back and watch me negotiate."
Yes.
Which is shut up.
Right.
You know, STFU. Let me talk, stop interrupting me. But she's got this wonderful tone, and she's constantly shutting them up.
Yeah. And I think she's gotten, the top 2 or 3 biggest deals on Shark Tank.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
The Scrub Daddy is one of them.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other two, but yeah, that's a great point. If anybody watches Shark Tank, she is very, very respectful, has a great tone, while the other guys are, usually it's the guys,
Well, majority of them are guys anyway, so
Yeah.
they're going to get into a scrum. Barbara does a great job
Yes, she
also.
does.
But if there's going to be a scrum, Lori's probably the best at getting the rest of them to shut up.
Yep. I think that Barbara has a great flirting power.
Well, she's
a great
she
little
probably
flirt.
flirts, but Barbara's a tough chick.
Oh,
and
she is.
I mean that in as someone I admire.
Absolutely. No,
I
she
admire
is.
the hell out of her.
She is tough as nails.
She come up from old school stuff, New York real estate, very tough. I was on effectively Clubhouse was kind of like this live podcast thing during the pandemic, and she's on and I'm on and we're doing this thing on negotiation. It's not one-on-one. I'm lucky to be involved in anything she's involved in. And she says, "Let me give you a phrase that I've never regretted saying." And I remember thinking, like, I got to know what this is. And she says, "I need some time to think about that." And I thought, wow, that's genius. So, yeah, she's really smart.
Yeah. They're all good. I thought I was glad to see them cast females in there, and you're right. They each have their own strength. But yeah, I love Barbara. I thought she did great.
She showed up for that too.
Yes.
I mean, she got they originally turned her down
like two or three times,
yeah,
and she's like, "No,
she's you know what? I'll be there." Which is kind of like, I'm gonna make you fire me in person. And they
if you're
were
going to reject me, it's going to be real."
Yeah, you can't do it over email. Man, that's a tough move. That's a badass move.
Yes. All right. How and what are your favorites? And one of the things that you caution in the book is why. Stay away from why. Why should we stay away from why?
Why always has the impact of alleging a mistake.
Yes.
Now, there's intent and impact. Just because you didn't intend for it to be that way doesn't mean it doesn't have that impact. I first started noticing that when I'm working kidnappings, literally all over the world. And any time if somebody negotiating on behalf of the hostages would inadvertently use the word why, the other side would go through the roof every single time. And so I started digging into it and realized that worldwide, when you're little, the first mistake you make, you break something, the adult nearby points at you and says, "Why did you do that?"
Right.
So every human being starts to get conditioned from a very young age that if somebody's asking them why, they just made a mistake. They might not know what it is.
And this is global.
Globally. This is human nature.
Right.
This is a global affliction. And so people say, "Well, I ask why all the time." Simon Sinek, find out their why.
Yes.
Finding out their why and asking why, two different
Two
things.
different things. Yes.
And then people say, "Well, I ask why all the time when I'm just curious." And I'll say, "Yeah, but anybody that you're around, if you think they made a mistake, you always ask them, why did they do that?"
Yes.
So you're inadvertently reinforcing this. 50% of the time you ask the question why, you think somebody screwed up.
Yes.
And so, that's a very high percentage of the time. Like 1 time out of 10 would be enough to make people scared of the word. But so everybody, I ask you why, if I were to, I got a group of executives together one time, I look around the room and I pick out the biggest sort of most potentially physically dangerous dude in the room. He hasn't got a jacket on. Everybody else got a jacket on. I say, "Well, let me give you an example." And I look at him, and in the nicest voice I could think of, I said, "Why aren't you wearing a jacket?" And he was kind of like, "It's hot in here." And I go, "Did you guys all see his reaction? His change of tone of voice, his body language, it was defensive." And I said, "All right, so what made you choose not to wear a jacket?" And I said, "That landed differently." He goes like, "Yeah, it did." And I said, because when I asked him why, and out, the adult language, which I think we can use occasionally here.
Sure.
I says, inside he was saying like, "What the fuck's it to you?"
Right.
And when I said that, he says, "That's exactly what I was thinking." and which I thought was funny because he backed up my point. You know, I passed him later on the hall, and this was a big dude, and so I'm glad that. And then I said to him, like, it seems like you had a reason for not wearing a jacket. And I said, that impacted you yet another way, didn't it? He goes like, yeah. So I just took you through 3 different emotional moments, bang, 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 just on my choice of words. So we inadvertently ask why all the time, and we unintentionally create distance between ourselves and others all the time. And if you could just go from why to what, you've automatically taken this thing out.
Yes.
And then if you're really good, you know how to flip back and forth between calibrated questions and labels. And based on time of day and the thoughts that I'm trying to shape in your head, then I'll make a choice between those 2.
I love that. Yeah, that's that. When I started switching over to what instead of why, it was a little awkward.
Yep.
Because why it's so comfortable. We grew up with it.
Yep.
And I use it quite frequently now. It's now kind of second nature to say, what motivated you to do that?
And you get an answer.
You get an answer, and they're not, like you said, they're not pissed at you or trying to hide or something. They just, well, I was thinking this or that or the other thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if they've done wrong, you want to know what their thinking was.
Right.
You're interested in a thought pattern. Maybe there's something in there that could enlighten you. Or maybe you can isolate where their thinking went wrong. That helps you diagnose, if you're mentoring them, helping them get better, where the breakdown in their thinking was.
Absolutely. And sometimes, if you're coming from a place of curiosity, then maybe you, by accident, discover that what they did or how their thinking got them there might actually change something that helps your company or makes your system better or faster or whatever. So it's great. What is so much better? I want to talk about, you already hit labeling. You mentioned labeling. Explain to the audience, what is labeling?
An essential label it's a verbal observation of an emotion or a dynamic or an affect. And what do I mean by affect? A look on your face. Like a label would be, it seems like something just crossed your mind, as opposed to what are you thinking?
Yes.
Now, the label is more likely to get an answer, or seems like you're uncomfortable with that. Seems like, sounds like, looks like, feels like are the beginnings words to label, to put a verbal observation onto what you're seeing. It's also a very safe thing to do. I could say, you sound angry. I'm not angry. I didn't say you were angry. I said you sound angry. Because the observation is just my observation. It's not an accusation. My observation could be wrong. It shows that you're open to correction. Labels tend to get people thinking, even if they hear a label. Like I'll have my team together and we'll be talking, and they'll ask me a pointed question. And I'll say, all right, turn that into a label. And then they'll think, and as they label, they'll come up with the answer themselves. Or when they label, somebody else that heard the label will come up with an answer. Because it's really the essence of listening. Sorry. Listening versus hearing. Listening is analyzing. Hearing is, you can repeat back the words. I heard what you said. Yeah, but you didn't have any understanding of what I meant.
Right.
So label is an analytical tool. And to label, I've got to analyze. And because I'm starting to analyze, I'm going to kick your analytical brain into gear also. And then it's actually a great stimulator of thinking collectively and collaboratively. And people respond to labels when they're tired. And even a great question when you're tired is hard to answer because you burn up a lot of mental wattage.
Yes.
With in-depth thinking. Whereas labeling tends to just get straight, unvarnished thoughts out of somebody's head. So the labeling, like on my team, most of us can get through an entire negotiation only labeling.
Really?
And we find that the two bread and butter skills in a Black Swan method are principally labels and mirrors. And all the other skills are a combination or derived from those. Labeling focuses mostly on dynamics, analysis, clues. Mirrors are just a word, repeating the last three words of what somebody said. Now, it's kind of like right-handed, left-handed. Either you're really good with one or the other. You're going to have a preference. Most people lean in the direction of labels. Sorry. Most people are right-handed. Some people really like mirrors. And all they'll do is mirror. But because they like it and their tone of voice always indicates either curiosity or confirmation, they're listening intently. One of the founders of a company that I'm advisor on, Even Up Law, Ray's a mirror guy. Like he closes deals right and left by mirroring, because he listens really well. He kind of smells where the issues are, where the deal is, and that'll guide what he mirrors. And mirrors unearth things in an extremely efficient way. Mirrors are just, I got to say 2 or 3 words every little while, and I can excavate the entire deal.
Wow.
My tendency, I happen to be more of a labeler. I use mirrors when I get backed into a corner. Ray is a mirror guy, and he uses a ton of mirrors. And another guy that we were coaching for a long time, Randy. Randy loved mirrors because they're so efficient.
Right.
Like, you don't burn any mental wattage with mirrors, which then saves all this mental wattage for analyzing what you're hearing or smelling a deal or excavating it. And Randy, before he'd go into negotiation, he'd say, we're going to go into this negotiation and watch me. The only thing I'm going to do the entire 90 minutes we're together is we'll mirror. Nothing's coming out of my mouth other than a mirror.
Wow.
Because he liked to show off to his team.
Right.
And so they'd go through a 90-minute deal, and all he'd do was mirror, and they'd get the deal. Or one time he told me he realized there was no deal to be had before anybody on his team did. And he could tell from the vibe on his team they thought they were still in a game, and he knew there was no deal. So he mirrored to wake his team up. Because what he smelled, what the problems with the deal was, then he would go in there and mirror that. And what got unearthed and excavated, then he saw the light bulbs go on over the heads of his whole team, because he wants to get out of there, but he doesn't want them to be drug out of the room going, wait, we're still talking.
Yeah.
He needed them to wake up that we got to get out of here. We're wasting our time. So he used mirrors to wake his own team up.
That's incredible. And so mirrors are basically, like you said, the last 2 or 3 words.
Right.
And labeling, again, you're putting a label on
something you see or hear.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love in the book is purposely or intentionally mislabeling somebody.
Every now and then. And so that takes the pressure off of your mirror having to be accurate, or your label having to be accurate. Because there's no downside for mislabeling. As a matter of fact, you get a lot more information occasionally when you mislabel. And you may intentionally, occasionally use a mislabel to unearth the truth faster. Because when you mislabel, the other side's response is to correct you. And the emotional satisfaction of correction overrides whether or not you should be sharing the information. Because the old phrase, people don't remember what was said, they remember how they felt in the moment.
Right.
There's very few things in life that people find more satisfying than correcting.
Yeah, it's human nature.
I just feel so good when I correct you. So you'll correct me with something you never should have told me, and I need you to never regret telling me, which is why I'd rather have you tell me as a result of a correction than a question.
That's so smart. Yes. In the book, there's a story, and so the story is basically these guys, I think, had robbed a Bodega, what is it?
Bodega.
Bodega, thank you. Yeah.
You're not from New York.
Yeah.
Everybody
Well,
from New
I
York
actually
knows-
lived in New York for about a year. I'm there in Manhattan, but all of a sudden, I couldn't say that word.
Yeah.
English is my second language, and sometimes my lips wear out. I don't know what to tell you.
When I read, my lips get tired.
Yeah, there you go. And so these guys, I think, had robbed Bodega, and they had gotten up to their apartment, and you were just out in the hallway. You and your team were out in the hallway for like all day, basically just sitting there saying, hey, you know, you don't want to go back to jail, or you don't want to get hurt, or you basically just sat there for hours repeating the same things over and over again. But that wasn't really, it's not a mirror, because obviously they weren't conversing with you. Were you labeling at that point? What was the story? What was...
Well, it was mostly, we're using a late night FM DJ voice.
Okay, that's right.
Which is very reassuring. And we're imagining what they're going through. It was labeling. We're imagining what they're going through, and we're just laying it out there.
Right. For hours, though.
For hours. Like we were there for 6 solid hours. Not a word on the inside. Not one word. And also through the process, we're indicating to them we want them to come out unharmed. And so then I would talk to them for a long time, and I'd hand the negotiations off, and I'd say, look, like, we're not going anywhere. And to prove to you that I'm not going anywhere, you know, I'm gonna hand this off to my colleague, because we're not going anywhere. And they'd get on, and they'd step up and talk, and then I'd come back and step up and talk, and hour after hour after hour, like, we're not going anywhere. But in not a threatening voice, just like a soothing, the sun's coming up tomorrow.
Right. Hello, this is Barry White, and we're not
We're
going anywhere.
And I described in excruciating detail what a safe surrender would look like.
Oh, okay.
So many times, vision drives decision.
Yes.
I, over and over again, put a vision of explicitly how they come out of there without getting hurt. And so, bang, after about 6 hours, a door opened up, and the first person came out, like inch by inch, exactly as I've been describing it for hours. Never said a word.
Wow.
Never said a word. Second person came out the same way. Never said one single word. Because I was just reassuring there with the voice, which is confidence, calmness. You can take what I'm saying to the bank. Here's how it's going to look when you come out of there unharmed. And they came out.
Wow. So here you are, you're doing this for, like you said, 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever. Was there ever a doubt that this is working, it's not working? Are they even there? Have they left?
No, I didn't think they were there.
Okay.
You know, it comes a point in time in every hostage negotiator's life when they're going to talk to what we refer to as a dry hole.
Okay.
Ain't nobody inside. You've been talking for hours. And I had already done that a couple times. I was in charge of the negotiation team by that point in time. And I had talked to a dry hole a couple months earlier. And the SWAT guys on the outside had said, like, look, dude, I'd have come out if I was inside. And enough time went by that, you know, we finally went in. There was nobody in the house. So I just figured it was a rite of passage for the negotiators that I was with.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, you got to do this. You got to be willing to talk to a door that doesn't talk back for hours. And this is how you do it. And we were out there for 6 hours. And at that point in time, again, one of the SWAT guys said to me, like, dude, I'd have come out if I was inside. And I was sure no one was inside. But a sniper spotter on an adjacent rooftop saw a curtain move on the inside. And I like, bang, it was like getting hit with an electric shock because you jolted. And that's when I said, you know, we got spotters on adjacent roofs, and we just saw a curtain move. I know you're in there, and I've been here for 6 hours saying I'm not going anywhere. And it wasn't long after that they came out.
That's a great story. Great training for the new guys. I want to talk about the F word.
Fair.
Fair, which has been used on me. I've used it. It's just, again, it's as common as why.
Yeah.
I just want to be fair.
Yeah.
I just want a fair deal.
Yeah.
It is. I want to say it has to be right up there with why, as far as really kind of getting
Triggering
people.
emotions.
Yes.
Yep.
And I like in the book you give 3 ways of using fair.
Yeah.
Talk about the 3 ways to use fair.
Well, you're gonna use it when you're backed into a corner. You don't know why. That's the most common usage of it. Now, you can use it to intentionally destabilize somebody. And the cutthroats learn that early on. And the real issue with fairness is the other side has no criteria to back up what they're saying. Because if they were, they'd use it.
Right.
And so you have to recognize in the moment, you got to diagnose, are they trying to knock me off guard, or do they feel incredibly vulnerable at this point in time? Whichever one it is, I'm proceeding with a different strategy. If they're trying to knock me off guard.
Right.
But they still feel vulnerable. So that doesn't mean that you still shouldn't be cautious. But I got to get a diagnosis of which one it is for sure, because that's going to tell me, it's really going to inform me more as to the long-term relationship. And so I might say, seem like you have a reason for saying that. Because neither way, whichever one you are, you're not going to feel attacked.
Right.
Now, they might be just testing you. They might be trying to knock you off guard. A lot of negotiations are testing you. I got to challenge you over the price. I got to push you to see if you can stand your ground. So, and it may seem like you had a reason for saying, I'm just trying to get a better price. Okay, cool. You called the other side out without making them feel called out.
Right.
Or if they're emotionally vulnerable, they're backed into a corner, they'll be like, and you make them aware without making them feel attacked. And then you're going to proceed also. So when somebody drops the F-bomb, which comes up in every negotiation, like you are not going to find a point in time when the F-bomb is not going to get dropped by somebody.
Right.
Now, you got to know where you are with them and who you're dealing with to proceed intelligently.
Yes. I like the fact that, again, you go through a lot more detail in the book, and that, to your point about somebody might be using it just to rattle you, knock you off your guard or whatever. And in the book, you also talk about sometimes people will give you, you call it bending reality, where they'll just drop a crazy price on you to see, again, to knock you off your guard and see what happens.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the fear of loss, bending reality, setting parameters. There's a lot of interesting strategies on that. And extreme anchors are not something that we advocate because you drive deals from the table.
Yeah.
You'll cause yourself to not make a deal with somebody that you should have made the deal with. Now, what I want to know is there a good deal to be had here? So I'm not going to come up with a crazy number to drive you from the table because I don't know how you're going to react. And so many people will come at us with extreme anchors, and I'm out. I mean, I am out.
And when you say you're out, you're saying, okay, you hang up on them, or
hey,
I'm like, we're done.
Just darn near hanging up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. The last impression is a lasting impression, so I'm gonna exit as quickly as I possibly can, in a way that feels respectful and open to collaboration.
Gotcha.
But I'm out as quick as I can. Now, if I feel that you're intentionally trying to exploit me, then I really don't care whether or not your feelings are singed by me just ghosting you.
Right.
But I'm out. And just the really seasoned negotiators hate driving deals from the table that they should have made. And the long-term people, the champions, without question, want to explore the space as opposed to knocking you off guard and exploiting you.
Yes. One of the things that I've learned and I think you hit upon it in the book a little bit, but I've seen this just from my own observations, that the U.S., the way we are taught for the most part in the U.S. to negotiate versus, let's say, the Chinese, the way they negotiate. And I think in the book you mentioned something, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's a different book, but I think the U.S. and the Chinese were coming together to negotiate a deal, and like the Chinese had booked a hotel for like 2 or 3 weeks, and the U.S. counterparts had booked it for like 2 or 3 days. And again, I think that's cultural, right? It's just the way, these guys, the Chinese, just negotiate differently. But it seems like we can learn something from trying to understand these different cultures.
Well, empathy is about understanding the other side to begin with. That's why
Yes.
it's applicable to everybody.
Everybody.
It's applicable to the Chinese. It's applicable to the Japanese. It's applicable to the Italians. It's applicable to the Russians. It's applicable to the Colombians.
Right.
Because there's an underlying basis, no matter what culture you're from, you were human to start with.
Right.
Now, you get into trouble in cross-cultural negotiations when you think that your culture is right.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
That's when you get into trouble.
Yes. This is the way it's done.
I'm going to do it like this because that's where we do it where I come from.
Right.
That's when you get into trouble. But another guy we're giving a global negotiation award to has negotiated commercial real estate deals all across Europe using our methodology. And if these commercial real estate deals, England, Italy, Holland, France, Germany, same approach.
Wow.
Because they're all human.
Right.
And if nothing else, Western Europe, with the variety of countries, all of Europe, and languages, I'm at a conference of self-described negotiation experts in Switzerland probably about 2 years ago. One guy's cross-cultural negotiation expert. And he's looking at me and says, you got to understand the Germans are different from the Italians, are different from the French, are different from the English. And he can see from the look on my face that I'm not buying it.
Right.
And finally he says to me, look, they all just want to know that you know where they're coming from. I'm like, bang. Empathy.
I do want to hit upon this since we're talking about cultural differences in negotiations. In something that I've said many times prior to reading the book, and of course in the book you mention it as well, is that the U.S. has this policy of not negotiating with terrorists, whatever you want to call a terrorist. But I'm talking Taliban or ISIS for this example. And in the book, you use the example that Hillary Clinton at one point said, we need to understand these people so we can figure out how to work with them or something like that. I forgot exactly what she said.
Right, she used the word empathy.
Yeah. And of course, everybody jumps on her and
it's weak.
It's weak, and she's joined the Brotherhood and all that other good stuff. But I think that's so true. How the book also covers about when you think somebody's crazy, that's when you really need to take a deep down and understand, try to understand them deep down, because they're not crazy.
Right.
They're only crazy to you.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that this idea of trying not to understand these people who, first of all, may look crazy to us, sound crazy to us, and obviously want to hurt us, we're doing ourselves a big disservice.
Yes, 1,000%. The real power from empathy comes from divorcing it from agreement.
Yes.
And if it's just understanding, then it becomes a universally applicable skill, because every human, including sociopaths or whatever disorder that they may or may not have, they want to be understood.
Right.
And every human has neurochemicals. Every human has oxytocin, serotonin, all those neurochemicals, and all those neurochemicals have the same impact on every human's brain, period. No matter what, they're autistic, they're on the spectrum, they're sociopathic, they're psychopathic, they are absent certain feelings, but they still have the neurochemicals and the base layer of emotions. which is a lot of discussion over what that base layer is. But of the scientists that are out there, they either say, I don't agree with your base layer, or you can't prove it. Which doesn't mean it ain't there.
Right.
It's a little bit like the existence of God. I'm listening to, I can't remember who was interviewed on Huberman Andrews' podcast. Andrew's a friend and a brilliant dude and a great person. And the guy says, look, the existence of God is not a scientific question because you can't run a controlled experiment.
Right.
Anything you can run a controlled experiment, you can control variables. Now you got a scientific question.
Right.
So anybody's trying to prove or disprove God doesn't understand science because you can't isolate the variables. And so whether or not humans have a base layer of emotions, you can't isolate the variable. You can't give the infant in a womb a questionnaire.
Here you go.
Yeah, you can't put an fMRI before they're born.
Right.
And so it's a hypothesis that either as a layman I can buy into it because I'm not a scientist.
Right.
I don't need to have scientifically rigorous data to back up what I'm saying. I can say this is my observation. I got enough of a track record. Me and my team, we got enough of a track record that, if we're proposing this as a potential hypothesis, then there's a pretty good chance that we're on the right track. And then you look at a newborn infant looking up at his mother's eyes. Now, mom's got oxytocin bonding going crazy.
Right.
But every picture of a newborn infant looking up his mom, the kid is usually kind of going like, huh. You look nice.
Yeah.
Huh, this is interesting. And if you could read their mind, like I always imagine a kid saying like, you have any idea what I've been through over the last half hour?
I'm still tired from the move, right?
Or I see this one video, trying to, what are the base layer of emotions? I'm among them was surprise, disgust. They haven't listed curiosity, but I think curiosity is there. And there's this video of this infant, and they've handed the kid one of those really pungent fruits.
Okay.
The green one, I eat it all the time. Green citrus. I can't think of what it's called. Super healthy for you.
Kiwi.
Kiwi. It's
okay.
kiwi. So the kid's got a kiwi in his hand. He's kind of looking at the kiwi like, And then he puts it in his mouth and it just goes, wow, wow, wow. And it gets over and looks back at it and it kind of goes, again, and tastes it again. And I'm like, you can't tell me that curiosity is not there from get-go.
Right.
Because this kid's deeply curious and like, that thing was awful. Let me try it again.
One of the biggest surprises I got from the book is that the FBI employs a team of people to listen.
Oh, yeah.
This blew me away. However, we started doing the same thing. We can't afford a team of 5 people or specialists or whatever. But this is what we started doing, and it's been a big game changer. And that is, we record the negotiations.
Right.
Then we have it transcribed. We have it analyzed now by AI.
Yeah. Good.
And we'll tell our AI to go through there and pick out what we're looking for. Where could we have been more empathetic? Were we not empathetic?
Right.
What's
That's
the underlining message? Things of that nature. And it's been a huge game changer because when you are going back and forth in a negotiation, it's hard to take all that in.
It's impossible. It's if you give me a team of 5 to 7 people and we structure it, we might catch it all.
That's incredible.
But I love your approach because these moments are going to come around again.
Yes.
And so then if you've done that analysis to gain insight, now when you come back for round 2 with insight, you got a completely different negotiation. That's brilliant. I love it.
Thank you. It's been a huge game changer. Not only do we have that transcript, but then we can also see when we're not using all the tools. Because, again, we forget, right?
Yep,
You forget that, hey, it seems like, whatever feels like or whatever, all the different things that we talked about today, mirroring or labeling and stuff like that. It again, when you're in the middle of it, it's, you know, you don't sometimes get all of them. And so that's been a big game changer. But that was such a big aha that here's the FBI, and you guys literally use a friggin' team of people just to catch, trying to catch it all. Yeah. And I think it was the guy who held up the Capitol, right? Not the Capitol, but the, what do you call it?
Dwight Watson.
Dwight Watson, farmer, tobacco
DC.
farmer.
Yeah.
And one of your teammates figured out that he was using this born again type of.
She heard an undertone of religious Christian dedication. He was, on the surface, he talked about being in the military all the time, 82nd Airborne, and, you know, on the surface, he's a proud American.
Right.
Very proud American, and who felt backed into a corner. You know, when he went into the reflecting pond in the middle of D.C., he had a U.S. flag upside down, which is an American in distress. And he's signaling all this stuff, very military, very patriotic. And she heard underneath, occasionally here and there was this deep Christian born-again conviction, and we use that to be a breakthrough with getting him to come out.
Yes. And that, to me, is incredible, because if it wasn't for that teammate who heard those undertones, it might have lasted another couple of days or whatever.
Or he might have got killed.
Missed. Yeah, the guy could have been killed.
Because as time went on, he gets more tired, and there were rules of engagement. Like, we're trying real hard not to kill this guy. And the more tired you are, the more likely you are to make a decision that's going to lead to your demise. But there was legitimate reason, there was more than reasonable suspicion that there were explosives there and that there was imminent harm to everybody even close by with the potential explosives that he talked about having. So we wanted to get him out of there before he melted down and accidentally got himself killed.
Yeah, yes. Because people don't always think about that you guys are willing to take a life, but you're not trying to take a life.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah, you're doing everything you can do to, because it's irreversible. Like, even if it's a legally justifiable move, it may still be a tough one morally.
Right.
You know, I don't know that it's ever not tough.
Right.
Morally, and that's why there are a lot of police shootings that, when taken to trial, are 1,000% justified shootings. But it just feels bad. It went down. The community doesn't want that. You know, they don't want you to shoot everybody that you can.
Right. Right.
You know, they want you to do everything you can to avoid using this deadly force, which is conferred upon law enforcement. They want you to be respectful of the enormity of that power. Yes. And so, not taking a life is an important decision to make.
Absolutely. I want to talk about this real quick. I think it's the word that most of us fear. No.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you mentioned gym camp in your book, and again, this is one of my favorite parts of the book. There's just so many of them, as you guys keep hearing me say. But no, for so many years, is like such a mind trap, right? Oh, we try to avoid it. Right. And then the example that you gave in there just changed my whole mindset on it. And that is, our kids do that to us all the time. You tell your kids no, because you want that control, that comfort, that protection. Yeah. And then now you kind of relax and you're kind of okay.
You're willing to listen.
Yeah. And this, I think, just teaching people on how to deal with no and how to really like the word no, because it's really, as you mentioned in the book, no is not the end, it's the beginning of the negotiations.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and there's a difference between saying it and hearing it. And if you understand how saying it makes people feel safe, because you start to put together ideas from different spots. And so as a parent, Dad, can I? No. Now you're willing to listen. Right. Lieutenant on a police department, NYPD, once said to me, you know, Chris, a lieutenant's job is to say no. And I remember at the time kind of being insulted by that, because I thought, dude, you're not a leader.
Right.
If you think your job is to say no to your guys, then I don't know, you're mentoring and growing these guys. And I was a little offended about how good it made him feel. And then I started putting it together, and I'm like, there's tremendous power in making somebody feel that way.
Yes.
It's, again, gaining the upper hand.
Right.
While they feel large and in charge. Suddenly they're open. They feel safe and protected. And so then the flip side is saying yes feels like a trap. And there is a very specific sales technique where it is a trap.
Yes.
The yes momentum, every yes is a micro agreement or a tie down. So the big yes is the trap that you walk them into.
Right.
So these two words, they're like polar opposites on a magnet. You know, one repels, the other attracts. And you try to get me to say yes, I'm instantly, my guard's going up because I've been trapped. I've been walked into that bear trap a whole bunch of times. And so how do I avoid the bear trap? I say no. And I feel good when I say no. And I relax. And my vision isn't clouded. And I'm willing to listen. So we've just we take Jim's idea of letting people feel it's okay to say no to the next level of triggering the emotional reaction when they do say no. And one of the CEOs of a company we're doing training for, they took their close questions from yes questions to no questions. Their close rate was 12%, and their close rate became 60%.
That's incredible. Yes, I love that. We try to use no questions all the time.
Yeah.
Because exactly what you said, it first of all, it throws them off, and they're just like, they're so happy to say no, and it kind of, you can definitely see them relax, and it also, I think it speeds up the whole trust.
Yep.
And so no is such an effective tool that, again, if you guys haven't gotten the book, or if you've only read it once or twice, you need to really just sit down there and go through the no chapters. And let me ask you this, because I know you have the Black Swan group,
right?
And you guys do all sorts of training. So do you guys have like public trainings? Talk about your trainings a little bit and how people can get involved with your organization.
Well, we got it at every level.
Okay.
And we have the Black Swan negotiation community, which if you just go to our website, you can join the community and you can start getting involved. You can exercise, you can role play, you can start to get some learning from other people that are learning. Let's say you got no money. Negotiation community costs you nothing. You're flipping burgers at McDonald's. Whatever you're doing, you're living hand to mouth. You need to start getting yourself some space. There are some people that can't afford to go to the summit.
Right.
Now, last year, the summit tickets are about $3,500 each. Over $100 million in transactions were consummated at the summit last year.
Wow.
Like, we've got this summit designed for you to come and close your most difficult deal that you should close.
Right.
That you should close. There are a lot of deals you shouldn't close. We want to put you in a quick diagnosis of those you should close, and we're going to give you the tools to close them in the 2 days that you were there. And if you got the money on it, if you got, if what's at stake for you is worth it, most people make 10 times the fee for being there in the 2 days, let alone where it takes you in the coming year. But you're not ready for that yet. Join a community, start getting some repetitions in. Learn from people that are doing the same thing that you're doing. Now we got online training. We have a no-oriented question PDF.
Nice.
Your 10 most common yes questions, we'll script them into no questions for you. Go to the community and ask for the no-oriented questions PDF. Start to give yourself some acceleration right now. Put yourself in a position where if you can't come to the summit this year, if you use the skills over the coming year, ticket to the summit's going to be nothing for you over the coming year. You're gonna make your money easily in the first couple months. You're gonna get a raise. You're gonna get a better job. You're gonna have a better outcome. People are making life-changing deals with our stuff on a regular basis. You want some online training? We have online training. We've limited, our 2-day is the most impactful training we could give you. Here's why. Your brain encodes learning while you're asleep if you're getting ready to use it the next day. That's why when you sleep on a problem that you're grappling with, when you wake up, bang,
There's
large number of times you got the answer.
Right.
Because you were working on it the day before. Your brain does amazing mystical things while you're asleep, and you wake up with enlightenment. The 2-day training does that. You come to one of our 1-day trainings, maybe you go on vacation the next day. You know, we got a 1 day in Orlando. Well, maybe you go hang out at Disney World after the training, which is a cool thing to do.
Right.
But the 2 days is going to bake it into you in a way that you effectively can get 6 months worth of learning in 2 days if it's 2 consecutive days. And your brain has to be ready to go the following morning, which is why we're going to set you into one of your most important negotiations. In day 1, we're going to get you thinking. We're going to give you tools. We're going to give you practice. You're going to get a choice of what breakout you want to go to prep. Your brain is going to go to work on it for you while you're asleep. It's going to bake in the training. It's one of the things I learned from Andrew on one of his podcasts. There's baking in of learning that only takes place while you're asleep. And then you get up the next morning, you're ready to rock, you're going to finish that deal out. So, but wherever you are, maybe you don't have time to get to the training in Dallas this year. You want to put yourself in a position next year to close a $15, $20, $25 million deal over the coming year. Start by joining the community.
That's great. And what's the website?
Swan, yeah, thanks. Thank you. BlackSwanLTD.com is the website. BlackSwanLTD.com. That'll take you to the website. Look around a little bit. Right away, we're going to try to get you to sign up for the training or a training or the summit. Look for the community. Sign up for the community. Start making a difference in your life right now.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so you mentioned Dallas. I think you mentioned Orlando. So you have them all over the place. Do they move around, or are they constantly in these cities?
We're gonna do in the coming year. Our annual summit is probably going to be. We're probably going to stick to Dallas because it's a good central location for the U.S.
Yes, it is.
We're going to start to do this coming year. We're going to do our 1-day advanced skills trainings. I think we're going to do them all in Las Vegas, where I live.
Right.
Because it's going to cut down on some of our logistics. And then whatever your recreation is, Vegas is a great place to play golf.
It is.
If you're into golf, there's shows. There's non-gambling, phenomenal entertainment.
Right. Comedy.
In Vegas.
Art museums.
There's different Cirque du Soleil shows.
Yes.
You could drive dune buggies in the desert. You can hike in the mountains.
You got the places that will rent you the machine guns that you can shoot.
Yeah, my buddy runs a shooting range, Machine Guns Vegas.
Yes.
You know, Tim's shooting range is a great place to go shoot machine guns.
Yes, it's awesome. All right, so you named the company Black Swan. Why?
Because it's the little things that change everything.
So how do I uncover a black swan?
Well, first of all, you got to accept they're always there.
Okay. Always there, no matter what.
I can intellectually lay it out for you. There's some people that I know what it is. I don't get surprised. Well, you're narrow-minded.
Right.
The reason there's always some black swans there is because in every negotiation you're holding stuff back.
Sure.
You're holding back your deadlines, your pressures. You're holding back what could hurt you. So going back to what we talked about earlier, anything that could tremendously hurt you also could tremendously help if you could trust the other side. You feel vulnerable, but you're scared.
Yeah, because if you're going through a divorce and that's affecting you, you don't want to talk about that during a negotiation.
Right, or whatever it is. Your boss yelled at you. You got a quarterly deadline. You're trying to make your bonus. Or you're on easy street. You don't care anymore.
Right.
There's never not information that's hidden. And I'm not sure I said that right, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
There's never, and so then both sides have that.
Absolutely.
And then the hardest thing to wrap your mind around is what's in the overlap. And so there's always a black swan. There's always something tiny and innocuous that, if shared, would change everything. And the fact that it's innocuous is another key issue, because you're only going to have tells when you're hiding information you know is important. But since you don't have the full extent of what's important to me, you won't have tells on the innocuous information.
Right.
Because to you, it's meaningless. So if I'm only looking for tells, I'm probably only picking up half the important information. I got to start exploring the space to get you to bring something up that you think had nothing to do with the circumstances, and then suddenly it does.
Right.
But if I'm looking for tells, the tells are never going to give that. In poker, a poker tell is when you're hiding a card or you're hiding a bluff, but you're intentionally hiding.
Right.
The vast majority of the important information is innocuous, so you're not going to know to have a tell. And it's sort of mind-bending to try to wrap your brain around all that. But another guy we're giving the award to, he says, an attorney, he says, now I'd love, because I'm looking for the mutual aha moments. I want both of us to have aha. Not aha.
Right.
But aha. Wow. Yeah. Now that I know that, everything changes.
Right.
Which also then makes the process delightful, because you're looking for these delightful discoveries. Then the other side is no longer an adversary. Now they're experiencing it with you. And then you begin to make great deals. This guy's an attorney. He's getting ready to go to trial on a case. He reaches out for the other side with the accusations ordered over the weekend, and they avoid going to trial. Wow. They're going to trial Monday. And he just changes his attitude. Accusations ordered is basically self-effacing approach. And then looking for the ahas. And now they're into a collaborative negotiation, saving everybody a massive amount of money.
Right. And the risk. Because
and the risk.
You think you have a winning case, and the jury or the judge doesn't think so, or doesn't think it's worth as much as you thought it did. And
right.
So 90% of attorneys like to avoid those trials because they're still iffy.
You never know what's going to happen in the courtroom.
Right, right. Now, this award that you're giving away is...
It's basically all-star negotiation theme for 2026. It's the 10-year anniversary of the book. The book came out in 2016. Coincidentally, this year is a 10-year anniversary.
Right.
And we're like, who are the all-stars? I mean, who's just doing stuff? People need to know they're all-star negotiators, all-star global negotiators. And it just occurred to me that we're as qualified as anybody to call that out. Like, I got a team of hostage negotiators. Our collective negotiation experience in hostage and business negotiation globally puts us up there with anybody. So I'm like, you know what? We got to recognize these people. We're going to give Black Swan Global Negotiator Awards 2026.
That's incredible. Chris, it's been an absolute blast. And the book, again, Never Split the Difference. It's an awesome, not just a book, it's really an insight into human beings.
Amen.
It's just a great resource. Anyway, thank you for stopping by.
The pleasure was mine. Thanks for having me in.